So this is not about how to do something. I suppose this is about how I do something. So for all my new customers, this is kind of an eye-opener as to what we do when we start. Because a lot of the times people will say, well, can you show me the sitemap for the site that we're going to produce, and can you show me this? And I'm like, well, until I've got your content, I'm really not going to do a great deal. So what I do initially is I send you what we call a creative brief. That's a normally online, an online questionnaire that asks you questions about who you are, what you're doing, where's, what does your logo look like, what services do you offer, who's your competition, that kind of stuff. And I just get you to send me a few bits and pieces about what you've done or what you're thinking of doing. And that might be your products, that might be something you've produced online, that might be an existing letterhead or something that just shows me a bit about you. And that starts my process of working out what you look like. I suppose you could call it a mood board. That's my mood board of you. So that starts my process. Then what we do is, once I start thinking about how I'm going to structure your first page and what we're going to, how it's best to kind of get your message out there, I start to go into more detail about the services, the things you do. And when I say the things you do, what I kind of want to do first is go, right, if you think you've got, one or two services, one or two things that you do, then great, we're on the right track. Because those one or two services we can focus on, we can get those on the front page, and they can be the thing that take people deeper into your site. If you think you've got 18 or 19 services, then we're going to have a conversation about actually, can you group them together into one? Because if you give people too many choices, they'll just move on to someone else who suits their specific need. So I'll push you to kind of group your services together. So on the front page, we can kind of get it so that we've got a couple of services that you can be very broad about, and then in the subsequent page that supports the service, you can break it down there. But that's the first thing I'll ask you is what are the things you do? What are the main things you do? 3 or 4, 5 at a push, 3 or 4. So when I ask you about those things, I'll ask you, what are they? What do you do? Can you describe them? And can you describe why you're good at doing them? Now in that conversation, I'm not just going to take your word for it. I'm going to question you. So I'm going to look at your process or your service and go, well, why do you do that? Or why is that like that? Or why do you think that's important? And what does this mean? If I was buying from you, why would I care about that thing? What are the kind of important things we have to cover for somebody looking for that service to go, actually, this person knows what this service entails. So I'll kind of push you to think about your service again from a customer's point of view. And that allows me then to present on your site, on your pages, the kind of thing the customer wants to hear. And I suppose a very good way of doing that is you get a leaflet or something, or a picture of the thing you do on it. And you show that to somebody else and say, right, can you describe that to me? You haven't told them what it is, or you haven't given them your company name, you've just shown them something and said, right, describe that. And if the customer, the person you've asked, says similar stuff to what you've written on the site, then you're kind of getting there. If, however, you just recite this spiel that you've honed over years that just defines what you've said as if you were writing the dictionary definition, then potentially you might not get the customer's attention, or they might not understand it. So you've got to kind of, that's where I come in with I suppose I put a bit of a dunce's cap on and say, what do you mean by this? And what does that mean and stuff? So we don't go too technical. So when I've got those services from you, when I've got that detail, that's when I can start to build the site. Now, if you've known web design for a long time, you had a website for a long time, that might be quite alien to you, because when websites were I suppose given loads of people thought this is the most important thing. You're going to pay loads of money for this. This is really important. And in fact, the website then becomes more important than the business or the thing you're selling, when in fact it's not. So You might come to me with you're selling maybe a conversation I had a while ago about African clothing, and one of the things I said about that is we've got to ensure the website is, because African clothing is very colourful, very stylish. We've got to ensure the website just is kind of not there. It's irrelevant. The thing that you see is the clothing, is the things that you're selling. You don't really get into the website. The website's there to facilitate you seeing the thing, and that's what I'm trying to get at all the time. Is I'm just going to provide something that shows your services. What I'm not going to do is build you a website that then I cram your service into. That's the wrong way to do it. So, might seem a bit alien, but I get your services and then we build the site. Now, before we build the services, we may already be live with your homepage, a brief description of each, and then a kind of contact us page. That might be live already, as long as we haven't got any filler, the Latin text you see, or we're lying. We've got a different address, or we've got we've got some stuff we've copied from somewhere else. We obviously won't do that, as long as we haven't got any copyrighted images. As long as we can display your homepage, I always like to go live as soon as possible, so there is something live for people to see within a week. Yeah, within a week. So it's something there, and then we start to build the other bits and pieces. We start to add pages behind. Once we're happy with them, we then link to them and stuff, and people can then see those pages. But I like to let your content dictate the structure of the website, and I like to get things live sooner than you may like. And that just means, it means that your message is out there, and as I'm waiting for you to give me stuff, I'm tinkering with the Google sort of ranking, not tinkering with the ranking. I'm tinkering with your how Google sees you. Yeah, while I'm waiting, inevitably for you to catch up with what we're doing. Yeah, so that's kind of the process in a nutshell. The end. It never ends. This is probably the hardest part for me, is because obviously for what I do, at some point I've got to bill you. Now normally I say a 50% deposit before I start, and by the time I've got the contract to you and I've sent you an estimate and said there's a 50% payment before I start, I'm normally halfway finished. So that kind of normally goes by the wayside, but that's what I like to say. And 50% is not so I can go on a holiday. It's so that, I don't like to say this, but so you're concentrated on your site as well as I am. So you've paid for it. So if I ask you for content, you're more likely to give it to me. If you're already, I wouldn't say heavily invested. If you're already invested in the site, you're more likely to give me the content. So that's why I asked for that. Then we get to the point where, when do I invoice you? Because I don't think this thing doesn't end. It never ends. I'll get to the point where I think, right, you've got a live site. The pages are done. We're just tweaking things, and you're asking for things to go to the left a little bit or to the right a bit, or change a picture or that kind of stuff. But your site is doing business. So once it's doing business, and there's nothing major for me to do, then I invoice. Then I kind of go, right, you've paid. But that's not the end of it, because what I then do is I go, right, from kind of the moment we've finished, we go into like a 2 or 3 month kind of holding pattern, and that's good, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to walk away and then leave you to ruin the site I've built. Because you'll probably want to, if you're doing, keeping it updated, if you're doing sort of blog posts about it, what I want you to do is to do the first couple kind of with me involved. So you might give me the stuff for the first post, and I will create the post for you and do it and show you, this is how we did, this is what I did, right, next time you're going to do it. When you do it, I'll go, right, change this, move that there, you could do it better that way. So by the time we've got that 2 or 3 month period at the end, you're not going to ruin it. Yeah, that's the reason. is obviously when I say to somebody, have a look at this site I built 6 months ago, I don't want to look at it and for it to be rubbish because you've put screaming llamas and bits of rubbish all over the place and stupid text and green text on a yellow back. You've gone mad with it and stuff. So I don't need to do that. So the 2 or 3 months is for me to kind of make sure you get it, make sure you understand how it works. But I suppose more importantly, to make sure you can get the best out of it. That's what those are. And anything else that you want to tinker with, we'll do that. And probably as important as well, once we've completed it, what generally happens is, before we've started, when you've been looking at websites and you've got your previous history of websites and all that kind of stuff, your idea of what's possible is set. And then as soon as we start doing stuff and I start adding bits and taking you in a different direction and stuff, you'll get to the point where you go, actually, there's a lot more possible. So you might suddenly go, is there any chance that I could have a booking system now? And that's what those 2 or 3 months are. You may have to pay a bit more if I have to buy an system to do that, but if it's within the sort of realms of an hour or two's work, then there's no reason why we wouldn't tack that on. That's what those two. So you've already paid for that service, and then 2 or 3 months later we go. Now if you've paid for backup, we'll have an ongoing relationship because I'll contact you every 12 months and say backup's being renewed and stuff. And it's not just the system working is backing your stuff up. The system's working backing your stuff up and it's telling me if something goes wrong. So then I can go, right, there's something wrong with this, and I tell you kind of straight away, because sometimes if your website's sort of just an information portal, you might not look at it every day, but I can then give you an email saying your site's down, something's wrong with it, because maybe you haven't been doing your own maintenance and stuff. If you're not getting me to do that kind of stuff, so that involves that. But other than that, what I'm normally keen to do is get it finished, get it done, and then kind of give you a site that will last you. This might sound a bit weird. Will last you at least a year, because no one knows what's coming next. The next sort of 18 months, sites might change completely, but it should last you at least a year, so you won't have to touch it at all. And it'll. I always try and make it look bigger than you are. So if you're a one-man band, you're going to get people looking at your site thinking you've got a couple of employees, if not hundreds. That's kind of the idea. Is that I wrote it somewhere and I thought, when you write something, you think, that's quite good. I should remember that. It's something along the lines of, your website shouldn't hold you back. It should be, good enough for you to grow into your website. That's not what I said, because that's rubbish, but that's very similar, yeah. So that's the process. And